Canada, hello, United States of America. I want to say greetings to everybody here in Costa Rica and all over the planet. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. This is the Kevin J. Johnston Show that is every single Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. on the left crazy coast. Tonight's special guest is Chris Sky. He's going to be talking to us about vaccine injuries. My God, does he have stories for you. And don't forget, everybody, we have a 50-50 draw. It takes place every single show. Tickets are just $10. Buy as many as you like, and the winner is drawn today, right at the end of the show. 10 minutes before the end of show time, you find out if you've got cash in your pocket. You get half of the pot. And every single week, we're giving away 2 cash prizes every Tuesday and every Thursday at kevinjjohnson.me. If you don't want to use your credit card there in the shop, then you can simply send an email money transfer to the email address in the bottom right corner, which is freedomreport.ca at gmail.com. This is my 12th week now in Costa Rica. As you can see, my skin's looking good. I'm feeling so much better. I'm happy. I'm smiling. I'm glowing again for the first time in a very long time. I've got an announcement to make here on Instagram, everybody. I broke 60,000 followers today. So that's 40,000 followers since I got here to Costa Rica. Why is that important to know? Well, we were doing the show on Tuesdays and Thursdays in Calgary. What were we getting between all of our social media? Maybe between all social media, maybe 200,000 views a month. Why? Because the Canadian government has been censoring me like you wouldn't believe. And all these censorship bills and rules and laws and everything that jihadi Justin Trudeau has brought in has got outside sources like Facebook and YouTube censoring news in Canada that's all based on Canadian IP addresses. So even when I was using a virtual private network or a VPN, and I was trying to mask it, making it look like I was coming out of New York, we still got blocked. But I noticed that Canadians are not being blocked when I'm speaking to them from here in Costa Rica. So my just my Instagram channel is at 5 million views since I got here. Just that one. Then you got to factor in all the Facebook pages, Rumble, Bright Eon, Locals. My website the traffic is huge on that. Everything is absolutely exploded. TikTok and Clapper. There's the other two. I've got 30,000 followers there between those two in the last 12 weeks. So I just want to say, everybody, if you're concerned that censorship might be an issue in Canada, I'm telling you that it is. Since I'm broadcasting from Latin America, and I know that the internet that I'm using right now gets routed through downtown San Jose, the capital city, nothing's being blocked. More Canadians are speaking to me than ever before. I think the last time I was this busy answering emails was just after the end of April during my mayor run in 2021. This is before they locked me up for 7 weeks because the website traffic and the show traffic were just absolutely huge. So yes, we are being censored, everybody. And I can attest to it now with just the sheer volume of people that I'm communicating with now around the world completely. So I also think that I was speaking on an international scale. I was addressing people internationally, but I also think that they were unable to find me because I was broadcasting from a Canadian IP address. Now, the number of Australians and New Zealanders and Americans I'm speaking to is absolutely huge. I cannot believe just how many people that there are that are seeing my content. I'm not the only Canadian to complain about this. There are other Canadians that I deal with down here who all live in Costa Rica now. They've given up trying to make something of themselves in Canada. They are reporting the exact same thing. Higher internet traffic, higher hits on their website, more emails, more direct messages, more communication. And that's what the internet was supposed to be, was open communication between all of us who had ideas that we wanted to share. I mean, the very idea that there could be my next best friend or my next incredible lover in New Zealand, Australia, Russia, whatever it is, I would be able to link up with these types of people through the internet, or those who want to do business, like-minded business people, like-minded podcasters, people that are just interested in hearing me speak publicly. That's what it was supposed to be. And the Canadian government has taken that away from Canadians. So if everyone's like, you're all asking me, am I coming back to Canada? Well, what exactly would happen if I did come back to Canada right now? Nobody would be able to find me. They'd all, unless they wrote down my website address and they have it on speed dial or in their browser, they're just not going to be able to find me. And my Instagram channel will probably go right back down to being less than 200,000 viewers a month, whereas it's in the millions now. Yeah, like being in Canada is actually a really bad thing for anybody who wants to conduct commerce online. Let me just address a couple quick things here. Hello, Joe. Thanks for being here. Appreciate that. Hey, Dan. Jenna 20 condos are being built everywhere in Montreal. I just got off the phone with a friend of mine in downtown Montreal. He said that's exactly what they're doing, is building condos right now. Yeah, everything in Canada is covered up. Hesham, you're absolutely correct. Doreen is in Brampton. My God, why are you still there? Get out of Brampton, Ontario. That is a horrible place. The gang wars are just going to explode very, very soon. Sparan over here in the Rumble room is saying, Kevin, Jeremy McKenzie, stand on guard for me, gave me the balls to call out the traitors, go to Ottawa and be part of the convoy. Serving NOL to grocery stores was the greatest thing ever. Thank you, Sparan. I appreciate hearing that. I'm glad that Chris and I and Jeremy McKenzie and Ed here and all the rest of us could inspire people to be better and stronger and to go on the attack. As I've told all of you before, I've been attacked by every single branch of the left wing, all of them. They just can't help themselves. So when the left wing goes on the attack, I think the first big batch of attacks is when Bonnie Crombie thought that she was being, sorry, Doreen, did you say Brandon? Oh, Brandon, not Brampton. Oh, I'm sorry. Brandon, safer, but cold, I'm sure. The Bonnie Crombie, the mayor of Mississauga, thought she was being clever and was calling me racist. And of course, she has a whole bunch of people that she always stacks in the audience whenever she's talking. So my name made national news because she was calling me out for not liking radical Islam. And I really do not like radical Islam. And I've proudly stated I don't like radical Islam. She does. She adores it. So she calls me out on this whole thing. And all of a sudden, all my social media fills up. You're an Islamophobe. You're a racist. You're a hater. Well, how did I get rid of all these crazy Muslims that were attacking me online? I called them all the same thing. You're an Islamophobe. You're a homophobe. You're a racist. You hate white people. You're a bigot. You're a hater. You're disgusting. And I would just go on the attack. And they couldn't figure it out because they all think, you know what? This is a white guy born in Canada. We can attack him and he's going to cower away. He's going to be, oh, I'm sorry. Let's just hit him. And all of a sudden I hit him back 5 times as much. And what do they all do within a month? They all stopped. They all disappeared. And that is how you fight the left. You know how your mother always used to say, oh, just ignore him and he's going to go away. They'll stop. They'll get bored. No, the left wing doesn't get bored because they have nothing else in their lives. So they will just continue to attack you every hour of every single day until you show them that you're getting off on it, which I do. I do get off on insults, and that you're going to attack back, which I have done. So whenever you guys get called racist or homophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, whatever phobe thing that they want you to cower to, call them the exact same thing, add some more of your own, and do it 5 times as much. Trust me when I say this, they will disappear. There we are. And no, we are not talking about Palestine tonight, folks. So if we're going to be doing the arguments about Palestine, Israel in the chat, I'm going to throw you out tonight. We're talking about vaccine injuries and crimes against humanity perpetrated by the Canadian government and the American government against their own people, against the European Union, against their own people. All right. And Dan says the race war is one of many tools in the NW, the New World Order toolbox. Sure it is. But, you know, the whole race war thing is easy to ignore, but people don't want to ignore it. That's the worst part of it. These elites, as they call themselves, or I guess as we call them, they continue to do this because it works. Yeah. So I've always been a little curious as to why it is that so many people allow themselves to have their emotional state controlled by other people. Someone calls you a name and you lose your mind. You get angry about it. And you want to defend your stance that you can't call me that because you're not my race. You can't insult my race. What is wrong with you people? Right? You've just now shown how weak-spirited you are. When you react to that stuff, when you take offense to what people have to say, they are in control of you, completely in control of you. Now, I remember as a kid, someone would say, "You're a stinky cucka farty face." And I would cry, "No, I'm not. You're a poo-poo head." Like, you think about that. That's how kids are. And that's exactly how adults are today. They are just like this today. He called me a nigger. He called me a chink. He called me a cracker. And you people are willing to fight over this stuff. They're just words. Why are so many of you so eager to allow yourselves to be suckered into these battles? Ed, you're a face. So go ahead, insult me back.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Have you ever heard that? It's probably going back 60 years.
Yeah, I've heard that. I have heard that one. And it's incredible how so many of you out there are allowing these words to hurt you as if you did get punched in the face.
Oh, I miss the good old days.
I do too. I miss the days of offensive comedy. I miss the days when we could insult each other based on race, based on height, weight, culture, whatever it might be. We could insult each other on anything, and it was all completely socially acceptable. And what would happen there is everybody would try to outburn each other. So if you threw an insult at someone, they would throw one back. And whichever insult was funnier was declared the winner of the insult game, even though there was no insult game taking place. It was just people shouting stuff at each other. And life went on. Life went on.
We're going to talk about the glasses Hashem was asking.
Yeah. Tell people what you did to your glasses, you silly, silly, silly old man. Go ahead.
If you're in the waves in the Pacific Ocean, don't wear your prescription glasses, because even though you think you got them in your hands, there's that odd wave that'll just knock them off and they're gone. So I'm actually using $10 kind of reading glasses, and they suck large. So new ones take over a week to get here in Costa Rica.
Okay, so we have Ed that took glasses in his hand into the ocean, and they got knocked out of his hand because I'm pretty sure the waves that you got hit by were at least 6 or 7 feet high, which is why I like the west coast of Costa Rica here, because the waves do come in. They come in high all day, all night. Low tide, high tide, doesn't matter. The waves come in. I'll stand like this, and they knock me. They just send me backwards. They're amazing. And depending which beach you're on, the boogie boarding is incredible. If you catch a wave just as it breaks, you get up on the boogie board, you can ride it all the way into the beach. And I'm starting to figure that thing out.
Now, that being said, the waves here are tiny compared to what you can get 1 or 2 days a week on the North Shore of Hawaii in the surfing season.
Yes, they are. 6 and 7 foot waves are tiny in the grand scale of waves in general. Portugal gets 55-foot tall waves, depending what time of year it is. I don't really think I would be playing in those, but I do enjoy getting hit hard by waves.
And we had our first day of rain here since I've been here. Daytime rain. I can't believe it. It actually happened.
What happens in the rain here, everybody, is when the rain hits the steel roofs that we have here in Costa Rica, you cannot hear anything going on inside of the house. Like, just nothing. You can't hear each other in conversation. I can't hear myself on the phone. I got to take my headphones and press them against my head to be able to hear what I'm listening to on the phone or speak to people. But everyone says the same thing, that what's that noise? Because they can't hear me speaking. It is quite brutal.
But anyways, for the first 5 weeks I was here, this is the first time it's rained during the day.
Okay, today. Well, yeah, it's happened a number of times since I got here, and I'm not really a fan, only because of the fact that we have a steel roof on this house. Sounds horrible, but if you're living in a hotel or a multi-story complex, you're not going to hear a damn thing. Nothing at all. All right. Have we spoken to Chris? Is he on his way?
I'd assume so. He said he'd be in around 9:15. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then he'll be here shortly. Chris has never once let us down. He says he's going to be here. He's going to be here. Chris Sky, everybody. He's on tour. I think he was in Colombia and then Mexico for a little bit there. Let's find out where in the world he is when he comes into the room.
I think he's
All
back in
right.
Toronto where he was last week.
Oh, is he in Toronto now?
He was, yeah.
I was chatting with a couple of Canadian folks who had lived here for the last year and a half, and they just went back to Toronto yesterday. And Ed, the guy, he just told me he's seen over 100 people downtown wearing masks. He went to Dundas Square and people are wearing masks downtown. Why? Why? Surgical masks. Why? What is the matter with you?
Do do do
Didn't
do 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 do. Keep watching
did
that
we not
TV.
pay attention to any of this?
Keep watching the TV.
Well, yeah. Dan's asking if we ever saw the rain come down on a sunny day in Costa Rica. I have 4 or 5 times, and the rainbows that show up are pretty remarkable. They are very, very different because the angle of the sun, I guess, is different here being an equatorial region. The country's beautiful, guys. It's fantastic here. And in this particular region, there are hundreds of waterfalls, and there are hundreds of people that show up to these things absolutely every single day. The property values here are high because you've got so many vacationers coming down to see what is going on the west coast of Costa Rica. Now, some of you are asking me, am I angry about anti-hate and various groups like that have been slandering me? Well, no, not really. We all know what the anti-hate network is. For our American friends who don't know what anti-hate is, they call themselves a not-for-profit corporation. It's a group of pedophiles. Let's just call them what they are. Founded by this pedophile named Evan Balgord and some weird lawyer. I forget the lawyer's name. I've got his photograph somewhere around here. And a Jewish guy named Bernie Farber who hates Jews. So this group, what they do is they just make up lies about me, Chris Sky, and many other Canadians, and then they distribute their lies to all the police forces in Canada who for some reason pay attention to it. And they got funding from Justin Trudeau to slander and libel absolutely everybody. Now, they used to attack me a lot. Then I started attacking them. I started telling everybody everything about them. And I was actually challenging the anti-hate network. Guys, sue me. Like, let's do this in court. Please sue me. If I have lied in any way, if Evan Balgord, the founder of antihate.ca, is not a pedophile, I'm still accusing you of being that, which I've done for 3 years now because of all the articles you wrote promoting pedophilia, you filthy scumbag. Why have you not sued me? I'm saying it again right now. So I think it's 60 days that they get to sue me if I say that. So here we go. Today is the 20th of February. Evan Balgord, the founder of the antihate.ca network, is a pedophile and promotes pedophilia because he wants to do egregious things to other people's children. Okay, Evan, your turn. File a lawsuit against me. If what I just said is not true, file a lawsuit against me. I've been challenging you for 3 years. Why won't you do it? Why won't you sue me? You know why? Because you know I'm going to file a defense, and you know that I'm not going to take a deal, and that we're going to do this thing in a trial. And because you're the one that filed the lawsuit, you have to go on the stand, and I get to question your pedophilic ass for how long? I don't know. I've got about 4 days worth of things to ask you now, and all that's going to be on record. Because the second that you're dumb enough to swear yourself in, well, now you have to answer the questions. You know, you cannot, there's no such thing as a Fifth Amendment in Canada. You're going to have to answer those questions. All right. So there we go, everybody. In Canada, Justin Trudeau pays a group of pedophiles because Trudeau is a pedophile himself. And he had to actually bribe 2 underage girls to be quiet over their very bizarre relationship. They are paid to slander good, hardworking, conservative Canadians. But they ran out of money last year in June. They no longer got any further government assistance, and they were crying and whining about that. And now the Antifa guys, remember all those Antifa guys that followed me all over the place and followed Chris Sky everywhere? Where are they now? Where are they now? We don't see them anymore. You know why? Because our resolve was stronger than their resolve. So we are still here. Chris Sky is still doing the talking. Pat King is still doing the talking. I'm still doing the talking. Pastor Artur Pawlowski, we're all still talking. Antifa's resolve was far too weak because they themselves were far too weak. All right, we got Chris coming in just a couple of minutes here. Don't forget, everybody, someone's going to win cash tonight. This is the only podcast in Canada, technically Costa Rica, that will bribe you to watch the show. That's right. Tickets are just $10 each. One of you is going to take home half the pot. There's already $50 in the pot so far. Get your tickets at kevinjjohnston.me. All you got to do is mouse over the shop button and you'll see the 50-50 draw there. Grab your tickets, buy as many as you like. The winner will find out if they've got cash in their hands 10 minutes before the end of showtime. If you prefer to send email money transfers, you can do so right over here, freedomreport.ca@gmail.com. So I just wanted to reflect on a story here. Hold on there, Kevin. I'm concerned. Sorry. I'm convinced government used the census to know when the older generations died so they could use. Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. They wanted to know when the older generation was going to die off so they could rig the election with dead people at the helm. Yeah, I totally understand that. Ed and Adrian, both are in the green room right now. Ed, there was a woman that was mentioned today on the Jason Levine show, and I highly recommend everybody watch the Jason Levine show every morning. There was a woman that took the vaccine, the fake poison vaccine. 2 of them, sorry, because she was lied to many other Canadians. And apparently now this woman is a quadriplegic. I'd like to get some details on that story if we could, please.
Actually, it was the first booster that messed her up. So she was okay with the first 2, and a week after she took the booster, her life is ruined forever. And the fact that they suggested, what's that program where they make it sound so nice if you want to have yourself killed?
Medical assistance in dying. Maids. Yeah. Maids. It's murder. That's all that it is. It's murder.
She's young, like 21, 22 or something like that. Worked with animals, had a tough upbringing, and she only got 5 hours of assistance, and she can't do anything. Like, she can't even get out of bed alone. So it's a really sad story. You know what? I'm kind of torn about. We're ostracized, we're laughed at, we're criticized, we're mocked for 3 years. Now that the truth is finally coming out, I don't know, it's tough to have compassion, but some of these people just did it because they thought it was the right thing to do. And the high trust society, trust mainstream media, you trust doctors, you trust medical people, the professionals that are paid good money to do their job properly. There's going to be a reckoning, and it's coming. It's coming in the courts. And as more and more people start getting sick, and I think we're just starting to see the tip of the iceberg. We had the initial people that died off that got the nasty doses. Now we're seeing the other doses that are progressively getting worse. You're hearing more and more each day, more blood clots, more turbo cancers. It's going to get nasty, folks.
Well, what I'm seeing now is there's a lot of coroners now and a lot of funeral home directors who are actually just, even though they're not supposed to, they're cutting into bodies and to see what's in the arteries, and they're yanking out these blood clots that are between 1 inch and 20 inches in length, and they're solid white. So no wonder the person is dead, because you've got this white tube inside the tube, which is your artery or your veins, choking out your blood supply. And that, if that stuff gets into your heart, you're done. You are absolutely finished. Now we did also watch a video today with a doctor, and he was explaining that people's hearts who have had the 2 injections plus 1 or 2 boosters, their hearts are actually pumping blood at twice the rate. They're working twice as hard to pump that blood, which is going to lead to obviously heart attacks, very, very serious heart attacks, heart shutdown, complete shutdowns. This is a ridiculous thing that we could have avoided. But here's the thing, Ed, I want to say this, and I know I harp on this, but when I was calling to the attention that when I was in Calgary, running for mayor of Calgary, and just for our new fans who haven't been here before, this is what my campaign looked like a lot of the time. We had a really good time with this. I had stated that Alberta Health Services was guilty of murder. It was deliberate first-degree murder. It was genocide. They knew there was no pandemic. The entire establishment knew there was no pandemic. The judges in the courts knew that there was no pandemic. Jason Kenney, who was the premier of the province at the time, knew that there was no pandemic. I knew there was no pandemic. I'm the one that told everybody about this. And obviously they had to lock me up, to shut me up, which they did during the campaign, election interference, and so on. So what I did want to ask everybody here tonight is, because we did go through all this nonsense, is I want to actually hit Alberta Health Services with a lawsuit. I've almost finished writing the whole thing up, but we need about $350 to file it properly. That's why we're going to be fundraising hard now for the next couple of weeks. We want to get that in there. And if anybody out there is a lawyer and we win this case, you get 50%. I don't care about the money. I want vindication for the time that I spent in jail, Pastor Archer Pawlowski spent in jail, Pat King spent in jail, that all the arrest time for Tamara Leach and Chris Barber and all of the rest of us who have had to endure this, and the Coots 4. I want vindication. And it's only a matter of time before we get some of these Alberta Health Services dirtbags up on the stand. Remember this, Alberta Health Services, to shut me up, they sued me for $650,000, or so actually they sued me for $1.5 million. And of course, the Justice of the Peace just awarded to them. The lawyer they had, that Mark Jackson guy, that far left pedo-loving piece of dirt, he is a weirdo. Look, oh my God, he's a weirdo. AHS's lawyer, he's a very, very strange cat. Well, he didn't argue anything well. He didn't prove anything at all. But the Justice of the Peace was instructed to make sure that I lost that case. Now, I've appealed it. It won't even come up until next year sometime, the appeal. But they want me to not talk about Alberta Health Services. But here's the deal. The way that the law works is they say that I can't defame Alberta Health Services, but I'm allowed to tell the truth about them. And I'm also allowed to tell you what I believe. So I believe with all of my heart, not all the doctors, not the paramedics, not the nurses. I believe that the upper brass who run that criminal institution knew that they were killing Albertans. I believe that with my heart. I believe that Jason Kenney knew that Alberta Health Services was killing Albertans, and he didn't give a shit. He didn't care. He had the power to stop them on the spot. He could have ordered them all incarcerated, and he went along with it. Completely and totally went along with it.
You don't think he was blackmailed? You don't think they got anything on Jason Kenney?
I think, of course, they have something on Jason Kenney. Remember what I said about Jason Kenney? Remember that one show where I said, Jason Kenney, look, dude, we know you're gay. Just come on out, come out of the closet, tell everyone you're gay. You'll probably get more votes because now you're not lying to the public. And 2 hours later, they had a warrant for my arrest because I divulged that he was gay. Now, his lifestyle apparently is quite nasty and vile. And I'm pretty sure he's got photographs that were taken of him in a compromising position with probably somebody, I'm guessing, probably somebody underage, and it's being used against him. So because he's got too much pride and he's fearful of being called out for being a pervert, he decided to go along with the plan to kill Albertans just the same. And he was the one that made phone calls to the courthouse that I was in saying, do not give me bail. Don't give me bail. Make sure I stay locked up until the end of the Calgary mayor race. And Jason Kenney and we're going to have this out at some point. Now, I would rather it be in the courts where I get to put that piece of scum up on the stand. But if the courts are not going to let that happen, then I'm going to have to do things differently. That's not a threat of physical harm, but it is me saying that I'm going to have to look deeper and deeper and deeper into this guy's life. And you know that I will. And we'll just start divulging absolutely everything. And I'll use every single piece of legal paperwork that I can throw at that piece of dirt to interfere with his new comfortable life as a multi-millionaire. And yeah, people are saying here that
look at the bright side, Kevin.
What?
Look at the bright side. You being incarcerated and all those limits, constitutional limits, all the silencing they did to you, that forced me, Derek, and Stefanos to step up our game on your show and really get the truth out there to the point where I got cleaned off of Facebook so bad after having 2 weeks of doctor after doctor and different doctors, 2 weeks straight. They didn't just limit my account, my Facebook account or something like that. No. They had to clean me clean off of the earth like I'd never been on Facebook ever in my life. That's how bad it got with us. So
Yeah.
we did our job. We did our best. And a lot of people, hopefully we saved a few lives. I think we saved more than a few.
Oh, I think that our show saved millions of lives. You know, you guys, they locked me up for 7 weeks. You guys carried the show 5 days a week for that entire time, having doctors on the air. We know the judges were watching because what was happening in the Calgary Remand Center is that the guards were throwing a couple, not all the guards, there's just a couple, they're throwing stuff at me. You know, they'd walk into my cell for no reason, pick everything up and throw it on the floor and smile and walk out the door. They were denying me food for a couple of days here and there. They were denying me medication here and there. There's only one medication I need for arthritis, and the food is so terrible. I was getting arthritis. That's how bad the food is. There was almost a 4-day span where I only got the one meal. They wouldn't give me more than one meal, so I was down to something like 250 calories a day. And then you guys were talking about this because there was a judge's order to do with me that the Calgary Remand Center ignored. You guys pointed out that the Calgary Remand Center is ignoring the judge's orders. And all of a sudden, boom, I went back to 3 meals a day. I even got desserts with it that I was able to trade for more vegetables. They stopped throwing stuff at me. They stopped wrecking my cell. So media does work. And that is why the government was so eager to make sure that they bribed all of the left-wing media in the country, because media works.
Well, here's the thing with that. The judge passes down orders, and he's supposed to be the one of the highest people of authority. And in our high trust society, we trust the judges to do the right thing. Most of the time they do, but there's exceptions to that rule. But when you've got jail guards thinking, what was that quote you told me? It says, you complained, you mentioned something to one of the jail guards, and it says, but the judge put it on the orders, and the jail, what did the jail guard say to you? Something like, we don't care about judges' orders.
Yeah, we don't obey judges' orders here. Who does? And the one guy's laughs says, "Yeah, who does that judge think he is?" Like that's literally what they were saying to me. I think, well, why do I have to pay attention to them? If these guys wearing these costumes with body armor on, who willingly go to jail every day for 12 hours, it's weird. Why anybody would want to do that is beyond me. But if they don't have to obey a judge, then why the friggin' hell do I have to obey a judge? The system is completely broken.
So I think the judge was like shocked that I could say such a thing, right? And the police never came and arrested me because it was the truth, was it not?
Everything I told you was the truth. I was able to back all that up. If we went back and played all the video footage, you'll see me walking out to get my hands on my lunch, and there wouldn't be one for me. And they'd send me back to the cell. Yeah, all that was there. Everyone, I'm just getting the reminder here that we've got a 50-50 draw taking place. Help Kevin J. Johnston, me, get my lawsuit filed against Alberta Health Services because they killed Canadians, and they put me in jail because I didn't want them to kill Canadians. I didn't want to see anybody getting hurt, and they locked me up for that because they were cooperating with Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the leader of the World Health Organization, who killed 2 million black people because he is a racist mother effer. You know what he is. All right. So let's get that lawsuit in there. We got to raise about, let's say $500. You'll get half of it. The winner gets half. Buy tickets for $10 a piece at kevinjjohnston.me. That's kevinjjohnston.me. If you prefer, you can simply use the email address in the bottom right corner, freedomreport.ca@gmail.com, and purchase your tickets that way. All right. So Ed, just give me a quick notification here. Did we get a hold of Chris? I know he's calling. I hear your phone ringing. Is that Chris?
No, I don't know. You know what? He works out this time of night. I bet she's still in the gym. I'll put money on it. I'll put money on it. He's working out right now.
Well, did you text him? Just text him. Throw him a quick text.
I did text him, but
just
that's weird because he usually gets by within 5 minutes.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, put down the 6,000-pound weight and jump on the show for a few minutes. Right? The bar will still be there when you're done. By the way, I want to congratulate Chris Sky for doing a leg press of 1,000 pounds last week. That was pretty wild stuff. Absolutely wild stuff. Good for him. Alrighty. Just having a quick peek. If you guys, I'm looking at the Rumble room. Just give me a second here. I'm going through your thing here. Interesting question. Big Thrills is asking me, since I can't win in a Crown Corporation court, can you sue them in a Costa Rican court? I'm not sure about that, but what I could do is file a complaint in The Hague. Lord knows if they'll do anything, but I think the international tribunals might have something to say about the way Canada treats prisoners, and the way Canada treats human beings in general. Although we do know that most of the European Union was also involved in the scandal trying to kill their own people off, which is absolutely bizarre. And Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, that black curly haired guy from the World Health Organization, he's now threatening to release Disease X. Maybe he's not saying release it, but somehow he just knows it's going to be there. And somehow he knows it's going to be there for countries that are not cooperating with the World Health Organization. And of course, that is Costa Rica and El Salvador. They are saying no. So is Argentina. Brazil is saying yes, which sucks immensely. All right. Oh, we have that video of the girl who, I'm going to share the tab here. I haven't vetted this video. I haven't seen this thing yet, so I don't know the quality of it. But what I can see on this thing is that it looks like a girl in her 20s who was very fit. And yeah. Are we seeing it? There we go.
So this was a Canadian Independent that put this one out.
Educational assistant and a talented animal trainer. Life was good for Kayla. When the pandemic hit and the mRNA COVID-19 vaccines were available and eventually mandated in 2021, Kayla rolled up her sleeve and received 2 of the Pfizer injections with no issue. It was her decision to get the 3rd Moderna COVID-19 vaccine in January of 2022 that would drastically change her life forever. The Canadian Independent traveled to Bradford, Ontario to speak with Kayla about her life living with a severe vaccine injury and the challenges she faces as a quadriplegic in a failing health system. Thank you, Kayla, for being with us today. Before we begin, could you tell us what your life was like before your vaccine injury?
My life was really involved with a lot of animals. I worked at zoos and sanctuaries and worked with lions, monkeys, large parrots, and had a really exotic lifestyle at home as well. And I was also really, really active. I trained service dogs and guide dogs and did a lot of hiking. And of course, first and foremost, I was a mom. So
to hear her side, I'd like to speak to her. I want to let's track her down and speak with this gal. What happened? Like you've got the short version of the story. Go ahead.
You're asking me?
Yeah, there's something wrong with her spine. You knew what the spinal condition was.
It's one of the conditions that listed as a adverse effect. I forgot I had some kind of myelitis. Myelitis is basically some type of infection.
All right. Well,
and usually it's on the skin, but she's got it in her back, which is basically she's paralyzed because she's got I'm not a doctor, guys, so don't quote me on this. But some type of infection, and it's in the backbone in the nerve section. And that's one of the things that's in that 20 or 30 page listing of adverse events from Pfizer's own data. But this time was set off by the 3rd jab, which would have been Moderna, I believe, which was in the video. And then there's people that are getting pericarditis, myocarditis. We're going to try to get Dr. Chris Schumacher on, but he's very busy. Apparently something going on in the States in the next week. We helped launch Dr. Shoemaker's public speaking career. And he took 2 jabs.
Oh,
and
man.
he speaks up and he says, don't do it. But now the damage is done. It's too late. There's still people that are taking more boosters. I can't believe it.
Well, there are those out there who believe that they've got the moral high ground just because they do what they're told. Like there's a guy out there. His name is Black Pigeon Speaks. He is a Canadian guy that moved to Asia, Japan, if I've got that correct. And one of the points that he makes about Canadians is that Canadians absolutely love rules. They like being told what to do, and they like to obey those rules, and they like to scream and yell at those who don't follow the rules. Obviously, I've been yelled at a lot in my lifetime there are very few rules that I follow. I despise the idea that I'm going to be told what to do by the television set, by some young left-wing libtard on TV is going to tell me how to live. No, the answer to that is an absolute resounding no. And if you want me to believe something, show it to me. It's really, if you have an incredible claim, you better have incredible evidence. I put out 105 Freedom of Information Act form, $5 each time I had to send these things out. And I was asking to see the genome of this disease, supposed virus, which doesn't exist. I wanted to see the genome. I wanted to see a photograph of it underneath an electron microscope. Please just show me something. If you say this thing exists, I'm a journalist. Show me. And then if I had seen this thing, I would have taken the information to the people that I trust and say, is this real? And if they said, yes, it is, then I would have come out publicly and said, I was wrong. I apologize. Take your boosters. But they wouldn't show me anything. Now, they are legally obligated to at least answer me. And I didn't get a single answer from Alberta Health Services, BC Health, Ontario Health, the federal government, the provincial governments. I got responses from nobody. Absolutely nobody. But they still wanted me to believe what they said because, they said so. There was a pandemic for one reason only, because the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation said so. I will never subscribe to that, but they're amazing. It is amazing how many people that there are who will. Now, I was camping with friends of mine, not last summer, but the summer before. And this woman tried to convince me I should be wearing a mask. I said, look, I don't want to talk about this. No, when the doctors can prove it, then I'll wear one. But the TV said, but what if you were told that you would save lives of people? I said, but people can stay home. I'm not putting a mask on to protect someone else that I don't know for no reason whatsoever without evidence. It is not my duty to make someone else healthy. Now, she was complaining about all this stuff while smoking a cigarette and drinking beer and overweight. Then 2 hours later, the RCMP show up because she called to complain that I wouldn't wear a mask. That's how sick some people are. I hope she took 40 boosters, and I hope that she's got one of these many conditions now. Look at this. Because the RCMP officers that she sent out, by the way, they had their hands on their guns when they were talking to my 9-year-old niece. The RCMP are scum. They're absolute filth. I can't stand
they're sworn to obey orders, not sworn to protect you, me, or anyone else. They're sworn to protect the crown.
Yeah, here we go.
Shaking the bucket.
Yeah. Okay. Adrian's reminding all of us that there is a 50-50 draw here, folks. Let's get my lawsuit into the courts. We need about $500 to do so. Tickets are $10 each at kevinjjohnston.me. Just mouse over the shop button and you'll see the 50-50 draw there. And if you prefer to send email money transfers, there's the email address in the bottom right corner, freedomreport.ca@gmail.com. This list comes directly from the CDC. So the CDC, who told us that there was a pandemic and then later said, no, there wasn't. They've put this list out of the damage that's been done by the vaccines that they recommended. Now, some of this stuff I can't even pronounce. So I've got some pronunciation software here. In the central nervous system, you get headaches. You get vascular CSVT, ischemic strokes, intracranial, and subarachnoid hemorrhages. Whoa. Okay. So we're
actually
talking...
put that back up. On that slide is what that girl's got. Transverse myelitis, TM.
All right. Well, transverse myelitis is the one that's affecting the nerve cluster in her spine. That's what's stopping her body from working. And obviously there is no cure for this. They just decided to give her a wheelchair and say, good luck, kid. And my understanding is also she was a mom and is unable to take care of her child. So her child's been taken from her too. What an absolutely devastating thing. And this is, okay, look, I got to say this, all right? Ed, I got to say this, all right? This mostly is a woman thing, all right, ladies? And I God bless you for having emotions and whatnot, but a lot of women do the wrong thing for themselves, and they do wrong by their families because they don't want to cause drama, because they don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Like my mother was one of those ladies. My mother was a sweet old gal, but not very smart, okay? We go to Canadian Tire, and there'd always be some Pakistani woman there saying, would you like to have a credit card? And she'd say, oh, yes, and start filling out her form. I'd grab the sheet. No, Ma, you don't want that. You don't want them hitting your credit score. Oh, but she's just doing her job. I feel terrible. I want to fill it out so she gets paid. She gets paid regardless, right? Why are you hurting yourself to make some person that you don't know feel a little bit better about doing a job that they are making a living doing? So I know a lot of women out there decided to get these needles because the emotional state was there. Oh, the TV said that, I shouldn't be selfish and I'm just going to go do it because the TV said to do it. Don't ever, ladies, don't ever think with your emotions when it comes to your money, your credit score, your personal information, your children, or your very life and health. You don't have to consider anybody else's feelings. Please, I'm going to beg you now. Let's put logic first. And as for all the beta cuck males out there, all the beta cuck males who just ran out to get needles, I have no respect for that. Like as men, as real men, like the guys on the screen currently are, it is our job to scrutinize absolutely everything. And if we do not scrutinize absolutely everything, what's going to happen? You're going to make the wrong decision for the wrong reasons. Now, if you remember my book, Masks Are Bullshit, which is actually free on my website, everybody, there you go. I wrote my own proverb. When you make a decision based on fear, it's 100% wrong 100% of the time. And that is exactly what they wanted all of us to do, was to be in a state of fear, have societal chaos. And so that way they could have everyone line up to get these needles so that they thought that they had a better chance of living. So how many times did you guys see me when I would shop and I would be live on Instagram or I would be live on Facebook to protect myself, that you'd see men going, excuse me, you raise your mask, put your mask on. Remember how many times, was it like 36 times where these males, these beta cuck males would say, well, my wife's a nurse and she says there is a pandemic. Like, first off, she's not a nurse. And secondly, you don't have a wife. You're a loser, right? You've got people that take advantage of you. That's all you've got. I'm so aghast at how weak males in our society have become. So ladies, stop with the emotional decision-making, and men, go to the gym, read some books, get into a fist fight or something, man. Take a chance, do something masculine for the first time in your lives. My God, it frightens me to think that so many people died because men refused to man up. Wow. And that includes the doctors and the cops and everybody who was working in government who raced out to get needles so they could keep their pension. Remember that joke I'm always cracking? That's the only thing they care about. Okay? I got needles in my arms because I want my pension. Remember? Yeah, pension. Woo, pension. I want my pension. So you get needles. Right? You're not going to spend it when you're dead. And I kept telling them all, you'll be dead, guys. You're not in any way, shape, or form going to be able to spend that pension. You've worked these ridiculous hours at these awful government jobs for a pension that is also not going to be there when you go to collect it, because Canada is switching to a central bank digital currency. And when that happens, all the old contracts to do with your pension are gone. All of them. You're not getting a pension, you idiots. Yes, Aaron, men need to grow some friggin' balls. They really do. And let's tell you, look, I'll remind you all about how weak these modern males are. Remember, I told you about getting attacked by 46 members of Antifa. 46. And they couldn't kill me. I fought them off. 46. You pussies, you pathetic individuals, you beta cucks. You're never going to get laid. Oh my God, you guys are absolutely useless. Absolutely useless. All right. We got to go back to this list. Let's have a look at more of these diseases that we get here. I'm going to try to pronounce these things. Hold on a second here. Encephalopathy, which is, it's kind of a catch-all term for various diseases of the brain. Then we have encephalitis, which is absolute swelling of the brain caused by viruses or symptoms. And the symptoms include headaches and drowsiness, nausea, fever, and so on. And if it's not dealt with, then your brain can actually heat up and be damaged. And that's just not a good thing. Then this big long one here, I don't even think I'm going to be able to pronounce this one at all. Hold on. and encephalomyelitis. Actually, I got it. Okay. Encephalomyelitis, which is a combination of all the above. We are talking massive swelling absolutely everywhere. Adrian was kind enough to send me over a list of the actual medical definitions of some of these things that you're going to get from these nasty COVID injections, these poisons. All right. Thank you for the list there, Adrian. Appreciate that. So cranial nerve palsies. A palsy is a lack of functioning of a nerve. So a cranial nerve palsy may cause a partial weakness or complete paralysis of the areas served by the affected nerve. Now, some of you have seen Bell's palsy. What's his name there? What's Bieber? Justin Bieber? That's him. Yeah, Justin Bieber had to cancel his concert because he got Bell's palsy from the injections. Half of his face.
His girlfriend.
What?
As did his girlfriend.
Idiots. There you go. So palsy, I'm just thinking, if you got a cranial palsy, then parts of your body are going to shut down for as long as the palsy is in place. And it could be avoided by not taking these dirty needles. Then we've got transverse myelitis, which is an inflammation of part of the spinal cord. That's what that young lady has. The exact cause is often unknown. All right. Well, we do know that it's from these injections. That we do know. Then we have optic neuritis, which occurs when swelling or inflammation damages the optic nerve. So now you go from 20/20 vision to not so good vision. A bundle of nerve fibers that transmits visual information from your eye to your brain, and the common symptoms include pain with eye movement and temporary vision loss in one eye, possibly both if you got a really, really bad batch. By the way, Brenda, thank you very much for buying 2 tickets. We do appreciate that. And thank you to Sue for buying 1 ticket. We do appreciate that. So, Adrian, we got Susan with 1 ticket and we got Brenda with 2. Thank you, ladies, for grabbing 50/50 tickets. We greatly appreciate that. Then we have neuroleptic malignant syndrome, NMS, which is a life-threatening neurologic emergency associated with the use of antipsychotic agents and characterized by a distinctive clinical syndrome of mental status change, rigidity, fever, and a word I can't pronounce here, dysautonomia. So are you telling me that there's antipsychotic medication in these jabs that would actually affect somebody neurally? That's neuro. The key word's neuro, brain. Oh my God, man. More functional neurological disorders. These are also known as conversion disorder, and functional neurologic symptom disorder refers to a group of common neurological movement disorders caused by an abnormality in how the brain functions. So you know what that means, everybody? Numbness in joints, numbness in your spine, your legs. You just collapse because you can't feel them. You can't feel your face. You know, you'll be brushing your teeth and you have no idea if you're touching anything. You can start getting injuries and not know you've got injuries because your pain centers don't work. These are crazy things that are happening, all because Justin Trudeau wanted to stick you with needles. Then
actually, Justin Trudeau was making money hand over fist because didn't he invest heavily in one of the 2 companies that's making the there's some kind of cell line or something that's using all these jabs. So he's making money hand over fist. The fact that it's a huge conflict of interest, are we going to ignore that?
The average person will. You know why the average person is going to ignore that? Because they've got their hockey games back. Because somehow the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Vancouver Canucks are that important to them.
Yeah, bread and circuses, right? Keep the masses preoccupied with dumb shit.
Yeah, and the Leafs do suck, by the way. And the NHL in general, I think since the last players' strike, I may have watched 4 games I used to watch the Leafs either every week or bi-weekly. I would always catch about half the season. I was always interested in sports because I was a hockey coach, a hockey referee, all that. I used to work for the Canadian Football League. I worked for a couple of the teams in the International Hockey League before they merged with the AHL. I was always into sports. But 3 player strikes in my adult life, I just gave up on the NHL. So I've only seen these games because other people bought tickets and I decided to go. But you know what? It's just not as much fun as it used to be. Sports these days, these guys are all a bunch of wieners. There's no other term I've got. What a bunch of wimps.
It's interesting. I was walking downtown. I think it was on Adelaide Street after one party that we were actually promoting. And some guy says, "Hey, man, what's going on?" I says, "Oh, not much." So, what do you think of those Leafs? I says, "Seriously, going to waste my time and energy on that distraction? Our country's gone to shit." And I just went into him politely, of course. He's probably 20 or 25 years younger than me, maybe 30 years younger. I'm saying, so you're worried about you're all excited about the Leafs and what's going on, and they had a good game. And I got onto it. Unemployment's never been higher. Deficits have never been higher. You're never going to be paying less taxes. You're always going to pay more taxes. The economy is going to hell. We got immigrants coming in from other countries don't even want to speak the language. And the fact that they're all fighting age males, that doesn't concern you. And you're talking to me about the Leafs. And I went on for about 5 minutes of all the shit that's going on that he's ignoring because he's putting all his attention to the Leafs. I says, "You still want to talk to me about the Leafs?" He's kind of like in a daze, like, what happened? I actually made him think. And I think it hurt him.
It tends to hurt when you make people think. I've lost a lot of friends since I became a journalist. And I'm trying to explain the reality of life to these folks. And what I've done is I've made them think, and I've taken them out of their comfort bubble. Right? How dare you make me think when all I want to do is sit on this couch and play video games and drink beer? How dare you tell me there's something wrong with my country?
Yeah, how dare you, Kevin? How dare you? And I'm
Or
guilty
dare
of the
I?
same, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll just keep right on doing it. But yeah, at the
But why
same
do we
time,
do it though? Because I got to bring one thing up. We are interdependent as a society. Like you've got carpenters that work with electricians, that work with roofers, that work with buy milk from the farmers who need trucks that are fixed by mechanics that get the milk to the store. Like we're all codependent on each other, and that's what's really going to hurt in about 3 or 4 years when the big numbers start coming up, and we got a lot of people sitting in hospitals, and the hospitals are overflowing. That's why the government has to bring in maids, because our system is not going to be able to handle it. There just won't be enough people, healthy people, to take care of all the sick.
well, the
And
other issue that we have, everybody, is that for whatever the reason, almost 1.2 million people were brought into Canada last year who don't speak English and are very unhealthy from unhealthy countries. There'll be a million more this year. Imagine 2.25 million people coming into your country who don't speak English, have no skills, have no reason to be there. They've never accomplished a damn thing in their lives. And now they're going to be draining the last of what is left of that medical system in Canada. All of you out
most
there think that Canadian medicine is great. It sucks. I'm telling you now, it sucks. Now that I've had a chance to see how healthy people are here in Costa Rica, supposedly a third world country, according to Justin Trudeau, now that I've seen how quickly you can get things done here, I'm never again wanting to be treated by any doctor anywhere in Canada. Period. The Brazilians
most
are laughing at us, by the way. They're 20 years ahead of us.
what was I going to say? I forgot. Most of the people that are coming into Canada, they're not jabbed.
No, they're not. Which means white people die in their own country, and all the others coming in from the third world get to take everything that was built before they got there. I mean, it'll all crumble. It's all going to fall apart. They will destroy it. It's the same idea as South Africa right now. And this is the thing that bothers me, is that nobody wants to talk about this story in South Africa the way that I will. But that is the blacks moved in to the major cities like Bloemfontein and Cape Town, Johannesburg, and so on. And what they've done here is they attacked the whites. They started killing the whites. They smashed every window. They broke all the street lights. They dug up the roads. They dug up the copper piping. They dug up everything. They just ruined everything. And what they also did, this is 10 years ago, by the way, they started doing all this nonsense. They would let their cows and their goats and their sheep graze in the streets now. So South Africa is a complete and total dump, not because of white people, but because black folks are doing this. And that's the type of people that we're bringing into the country. It's not a race thing. It's a culture thing. African culture sucks. There are some African countries that are okay, but there are many that are not. Somalia, Eritrea, and Ethiopia. We should not even be talking to these countries. They have not had functioning governments in over 35 years. Why would you want to bring people that have intelligence quotients of less than 65 who are violent as hell come into your country? That's what we've done. We have watered down our own culture. We have watered down the safety of our country. We've now watered down our healthcare system. And these folks who are showing up, people, we put that in quotation marks, are getting free healthcare, free dental, free everything. It is actually ridiculous how we have just thrown away everything that our fathers, our grandfathers fought for in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and so on. We had men who went to war to protect what was built before them. Now we have beta cuck males giving it away to violent males who are not men. Remember, just because you're violent and loud and rude and you spit in women's faces because your religion says you should, doesn't mean you're tough, and it doesn't mean you're a man. It actually makes you an animal, is what it does. Just, go to Google and search it for yourself, guys. You'll just type in black guys, Europe, spitting in women's faces, and you will see immigrants, illegal immigrants from all over Africa and the Middle East, beating women up, kicking women, spitting in women's faces because they think that women are sub creatures. So we actually have brought sub creatures into our societies, and they are destroying us, raping our women and telling us that we have to like it. And our police are telling us that we have to like it. That is a very big problem. And what diseases are they bringing with them now? There's the other big problem. We just went through this nonsense with a fake pandemic, but what real diseases are all of these illegal immigrants bringing to Canada, to Europe, to the United States, to Australia, and so on? And we don't know. We don't know because they're not even keeping a census on who's showing up. Yeah, they come to our doors because, we've got property and whatnot. They come to our doors asking to know who's in there. And they tell us it's the law. You have to tell us who's in there, what their names are, what their ages are, what their body mass index is, what they do for a living, where they go to school. You got to tell us all this stuff because reasons. But you notice how they only do this with taxpayers. They don't do this with the non-taxpayers. They don't do the census with the homeless. They don't do censuses with any of these other groups that are coming into the country. They are certainly not going into mosques and doing censuses there. They are just going out of their way to put as much pressure on the good people, the good taxpayers, as they possibly can. Horrible. Okay. I'm quickly reading your comments here in the actual chat room. Yes. Oh, the Megadeth song Washington's Next. Yeah, they did predict all this coming in. You'll find that there are clever people out there who do predict these things in advance. And it does happen. I'm just going to give Chris Sky a quick text here, everybody. As I haven't heard from him yet. Ed, if you're listening, call Chris, please, if you could. And Ed is smoking a cigarette currently. Ed smokes too much. Everyone, tell Ed to quit. Everybody, type in the chat room right now, Ed, quit smoking. There you go, because he's not at his station right now. He's outside having a smoke. You notice how I'm not going anywhere to have a cup of coffee. That's my vice. Ed, stop smoking. Call Chris. All right. I want to go back to this list now of vaccine injuries because I want you to hear more of what some of these things are, just so that you understand that if you are watching Chris or me or Pastor Art or Pat King, you probably didn't take the injection, but you probably know those who did. I'm not even on the right side of the column yet. Olfactory dysfunction. That would mean you lose the ability to smell. Would that not be ridiculous? All right. Functional neurological disorders. Okay, that makes sense. When you get neurological disorders, that's when your personality begins to change. That's when people tend to become excessively passive or excessively violent. When your personality changes, your brain begins to lie to you about the world around you. And when your brain begins to lie to you, you lash out in ways that you would never have done if you had all your faculties in place. And all of this, again, is because of these injections. And then we've got relapse or exacerbation of prior neurological illnesses. So imagine this, everyone. All right. That's a very interesting thing that they brought up there. So imagine that you once had some mental affliction, car accident, trauma, whatever it might be. And you went to therapy, you found the right combination of pills that helps you get better. Then you get these needles and the whole thing starts over. your brain begins to break down again, and you go back to where you were before. Is that not the most ridiculous thing in the world? Moving on to the next batch here, and on the right column, peripheral nervous system. So, is it Guillain-Barré syndrome? This one, Ed, call Chris. So this one is a rare neurological disorder in which a person's immune system mistakenly attacks part of their peripheral nervous system and the network of nerves that carries the signals from the brain and spinal cord to the rest of the body. Whoa, now that is some pretty harsh stuff. I can't imagine being in a position where your white blood cells are attacking your own nervous system.
Chris will be on in 5 minutes, he says.
All right. Sit tight, everybody. Chris Sky is coming. Chris Sky is coming, everybody. We love this guy. He always shows up. All right. Don't forget, everybody, Kevin J. Johnston wants to file a massive lawsuit against the crooks and the criminals at Alberta Health Services. Why? Well, they put me in prison for a couple of months, actually almost 6 months in total with them. And they would have done more if we would have allowed them to do so. Then they decided to sue me and slander me and libel me and slander Chris Sky and libel Pastor Archer Pawlowski and penalize all of us. We gotta make them pay for that. So let's get $500 in the kitty tonight. You're going to get half of whatever comes in. Tickets are just a paltry $10 a piece. Buy as many as you like at kevinjjohnston.me. You can also grab tickets in the bottom right corner there. freedomreport.ca at gmail.com is where you can email money transfer as opposed to using your credit card on my website. We talked about Bell's palsy syndrome. That's another thing you can catch from this, which is where your face just mysteriously, half your face mysteriously stops working. That includes your eyelid. So you've got to put Vaseline or petroleum jelly on your eyeball and then cover it with a patch so you don't poke yourself in the eye while you're sleeping. Well, how frustrating would that be that your eye stays open all the time? That would be frustrating. Oh my God, that'd be horrible. All right. What's it got there? How do I say this? Rhabdomyolysis. I'm not even pronouncing that properly there, but it's a rare muscle injury where your muscles break down. This is a life-threatening condition that can happen after an injury or excessive exercise without rest. If you notice symptoms like weak or sore muscles and color changes in your urine, contact your healthcare provider. Ed, microphone, what's up?
I don't smoke weed anymore, guys. I'm a pilot. I'm not allowed to. If I smoke weed, I can't fly for 30 days. And I haven't partaken in it since my knee recovered, which was back in 2019. So 2018, actually, once I was using it instead of narcotics for pain relief only.
The problem with
only
weed,
at night also.
Yeah, I know I get asked this all the time. So no, I don't smoke weed either, because what I'll do when I do smoke that stuff is I pull a chair up in front of the fridge and I eat until either I pass out or the fridge burns out. It's one or the other. I gain 5 pounds every time I smoke that stuff, so I don't touch it. Period. It's just not for me. I prefer black coffee. That's going to be my drug of choice. I'm being asked by Hamza in the room there, am I considering running for mayor of Mississauga? Yes, I am. And my first order of business is to put this piece of dirt in jail. Bonnie Crombie is a criminal. Bonnie Crombie is guilty of all kinds of crimes, including mass murder and extortion, fraud, like thousands of counts of fraud over $5,000, intimidation, malicious prosecution. This is a very bad human being. And should I win that mayor race in the Mississauga by-election currently, I will help Mississauga residents not only take this person down, but sue the hell out of Bonnie Crombie, take all of her assets away from her, and get money into people's hands whose businesses she stole from them by shutting them down during the non-pandemic. There was never a pandemic. By the way, in Mississauga, everybody, I'm going to need at least 50 signatures on the forms. I'm going to make the forms available tomorrow on my website because they don't get released until midnight tonight. I'll make them available. All you've got to do is fill out your name, print it out, fill out your name, sign it. I'm going to have a contact in Mississauga who will come and pick those up from you. Whoever lives in your household, you could all sign. I just have to have 50 names that go down on that thing so that I can put my name in to run for mayor of Mississauga and put Bonnie Crombie in prison where she belongs. And you're not going to believe it, everybody. The astounding, the amazing, the overtly handsome, perfect teeth, Chris Sky is in the house. Chris, welcome back, man. Good to see you.
You were at the gym, weren't you, Chris?
Hang on.
He's coming.
For fuck's
He's coming.
How come there's no snow in the
Where
background?
is it?
I don't,
Sorry,
again, there's no
guys.
snow.
Technical difficulty.
No problem. Take your time.
Yeah,
We can hear you if you want to start talking.
Yeah,
I
Chris,
can.
can you
I'm
hear
gonna
us?
have to turn my phone off and on. I think. Hang on.
Okay, Chris, just come right back in the room. We'll get you when you come back. All right, so he'll reboot his phone. He'll come back. Don't worry, folks. Chris is here. Chris Sky's here. He's going to be chatting with us about all of this. Chris wants to actually cover the fact that there are going to be multiple lawsuits against the government, various branches of government, for all of the illegal nonsense that they have pulled on all of us. Hayden Nuff says, had enough. I like that name. There's a massive campaign happening in Calgary to get rid of Coyote. That's Jody Gondek. Yes, the Kalistani maniac. The number needed is outrageous, but the campaign and peeps are out to sign. It's amazing. And just don't forget, everyone, I won. All right. Jody Gondek did not make a single solitary public appearance. I had 11 rallies like this and then some. And if you all recall, during my mayor run, what they did is they stuck me with a probation officer. Her name is Sandra Taylor. She is a morbidly obese piece of filth. She's a member of Antifa, and she had Antifa following me around the city, reporting to her on what I was doing. She would actually phone me up and ask me, why are you in McDonald's? Like, how do you know I'm in McDonald's? Because Antifa was following me. So imagine having a probation officer who actually works with a terrorist organization. When I first met this person, this probation officer, she shows up at the front desk there, brings me into her office, and she's got this spaghetti strap dress on, but she's morbidly obese. She lifted her arm, and there's this like flesh just swinging in the wind, and there was so much cellulite you could play miniature golf for a month on her arms. Yeah, the attitude of this person. I have never come across such an evil woman in my entire life. Every time I spoke to this person, I felt like just throwing myself out of a building, like just jumping off a roof. She was that kind of energy vampire, just sucks the life out of everybody there. And what she would do is continue to tell me every single time that we got together that she was going to make sure that I went to prison. She was going to find some way to get me back behind bars. And so I began recording every conversation that I had with her. And obviously, when I filed the lawsuit against AHS, we're going to be releasing all of the stuff that she had to say, because she was actually talking about things like, well, you know, Alberta Health Services, I do work with them, and you know that we're going to take you down. Like, you're supposed to make me feel better about life. How are you actually trying to rehab society? If you honestly felt that somebody was a criminal and you want to rehab them and get them back into society, which is what you tell them that you're going to do, then why would you then make threats every single time we got together? She would call me and threaten me. She would call me and scream at me at the top of her lungs. And then after my time with her was done, I just bid her adieu. I said, thank you very much for everything. I got to go. She decides to hit me with 2 criminal charges, 2 breaches, and she wasn't even my probation officer anymore. Right? So we're talking about a psychopath here. She broke the law multiple times. I cannot wait to play those audio tracks in the courts. As you should always make the assumption that if you're a bad person who works for the government, I'm going to record what you say. You should always make that assumption. So before Chris comes back in, everybody, don't forget, we want to sue everybody. We want to sue the government. We want to sue probation. We want to sue them all. We need to raise funds for that. 50-50 draw. Head over to kevinjjohnston.me. Grab your tickets now. They're just $10. Someone's going to get half the pot tonight. Someone's going to get half the cash tonight. We give money away every Tuesday and every Thursday at kevinjjohnston.me. If you prefer, you can grab tickets at this email address right over here. That's freedomreport.ca@gmail.com. So I'm bringing all these things up, everybody, because the whole thing was a scandal. All of it was designed to be as hurtful as possible to all of us. They don't want the Canadian born, or those who are not born in Canada but love the country. They don't want us excelling in any particular way, or even speaking to each other. All right. Hugh Hefner's back. Ed, leave it alone. I got this. Ed. Hey, brother. Hugh Hefner. You must have been at a great party there, man. You look good in that house coat. What's going on?
I was freezing and it was the warmest thing I had, so I had to throw it on.
You look good, brother. How you been?
Fantastic. Can't complain at all.
Yeah, so you were in Colombia and Mexico. Tell us a bit about that. Go ahead.
I was in actually Colombia, Mexico, UK, and all over Canada within the last few weeks. Colombia, I was just there for fun, checking it out, looking at a potential new business opportunity. I had never been to Medellin before. It's actually quite amazing. Everybody has this huge misconception of what Colombia is about. And in reality, it's like everything in Mexico is getting super expensive now because all the smart people or people with money are leaving Canada, US, Russia, Australia, different parts of Europe, and flooding Mexico like crazy because you can get a really good quality of life, high standard of living for relatively low cost, but it's getting more expensive. And Colombia is actually a lot cheaper than Mexico, dollar for dollar. So if you're trying to compare it to Canada, I'd say like Mexico, everything's about half the price of Canada right now, when it used to be significantly less. But everything in Colombia is like half the price of Mexico. So it's like a quarter of the price of what we're paying here. And I keep trying to tell people like Canada has turned into a shithole. Sorry for using bad language. And people are like, Canadians especially, the white ones, the ones that are under attack more than anything. Oh, how dare you say that about Canada? Well, you should just leave if you feel that way about Canada. How dare you call Canada a shithole? And then I challenge them and I say, okay, well, if I'm wrong and Canada is so great, please tell me what's so good about Canada right now. And more importantly, what's better about Canada now than Canada year 2000? And not one person can name one thing about Canada that's better in 2024 than it was in the year 2000. Because the answer is there is nothing better about Canada because it's being systematically destroyed on purpose. And people have no friggin' clue, especially the so-called old stock third generation Canadians whose families have literally been here since the inception of the country, and they've taken it for granted, and they've bought into the propaganda of self-hate and pushing everything but white people. And now Canada is at the point where what? If you're a white male, you cannot apply for certain jobs. Are you out of your mind? And they just published an article today letting everyone in Canada know that it's completely illegal to discriminate against anybody based on their race, their gender, their sexual orientation, or any type of disability. However, it's perfectly okay to discriminate against them if they're white, straight, or male. Any combination of those three things. How is that even possible? And we're talking about a country that's supposed to be inclusive and woke and progressive and all those wonderful things they say. It's a facade. This whole idea that diversity is our strength is a complete fabrication. If diversity was strength, how is China and all these countries that are very homogenous leading the world in virtually every category? Economy, GDP, IQ, all kinds of technology, all kinds of development, etc. It's because diversity is not strength. Diversity is how you divide and conquer a nation. Imagine going to China and telling the Chinese people that they need diversity, and that means they need less Chinese people in China. You would get shot, or you would get arrested, or you would get silenced and gotten rid of the country, because people there are smart enough to understand that that's not right, and that's not how it should be, and that's not going to lead to good things for the Chinese people who actually are the inhabitants of China. Let's go to a Muslim country. Let's go to Iran. and tell them that they need more diversity. They need less Iranian people in Iran and more of everything but Iran. And then we're going to follow it up by going to Israel. We're going to end our tour of diversity in Israel, the number one nation that doesn't want migrants. And we're going to tell them how they need to now accept hundreds of thousands of migrants as diverse as possible from wonderful places like Sudan and wonderful places like East Africa. And we're going to bring them in by the hundreds of thousands to Israel because, you know, diversity is strength. Obviously, that's a lie. Obviously, they were trying to destroy our country. And if you don't understand how far gone Canada is, besides the fact that you have to lie to yourself and pretend it's a good place to live, like I already said it, let's say, what's so good about Canada? We have the worst weather in the developed world and one of the worst climates in all the world in general. We now have some of the highest taxes in the world, highest rates of inflation in the world, one of the highest rates of homelessness per capita, fastest growing in the developed world. We have rated the most corrupt banking system in the world. Of every developed nation in the world, we by far have the highest debt to GDP. If you guys don't understand what that means that our GDP, how much economy we actually generate every year versus how much debt we are carrying. Right now, we are carrying almost 200% the debt to GDP ratio. A country like the United States that has more debt than all the world's countries combined at 33 trillion and counting is only around 105% GDP. So Canada, our sweet, wonderful, amazing Canada, has almost twice the amount of debt to GDP as the United States. And you're wondering why, if you look for rent in Toronto, you can rent half a bed, share a bedroom and a bathroom with multiple people for $700 a month. And you're making what? A couple grand a month. So 90% of your money is spent before you even make it. That's why we have people making videos in Toronto of these wonderful immigrants that are coming from places like Bangladesh. And they're coming here based on all the wonderful propaganda and hopes and dreams. Then they get here, and after their little monthly money runs out and they have to get a job working at Tim Hortons, and they realize that over 75% of their monthly income is going to rent, they can't do anything. They can barely buy groceries, and they definitely can't send money home to their family, as was the plan of going to the wonderful land of opportunity. 6 months later, you talk to these people, they say Canada's a lie, and I want to go home. Meanwhile, you talk to our government, and they'll tell you that Canada is the greatest country in the world. You talk to these wonderful magazines that rate the top place in the world to live. Canada's in the top 3 of every time. Meanwhile, I went to a dozen countries in the last few years, and I'd rather live in every single country I went to than Canada. Canada, this idea, this wokeness, LGBT flags everywhere, walking into a Home Depot and being introduced to a worker. Hi, my name's John. My pronouns are he, him. I don't give a crap. That's bullshit, and we shouldn't be tolerating this, let alone embracing it and bringing it into our culture. There are not 75 genders. You cannot change your gender. But in Canada, our federal government wants to protect the so-called rights of 12-year-olds to go on puberty blockers and change their gender. While other countries are making death penalties for pedophiles, in Canada, what did we see? We had a tranny, a transgender, who got a job working at a daycare specifically because they're a tranny. And when people like us say, hey, anytime a tranny wants to be around children, we should probably take notice because these are the type of people that like to groom children, rape children, traffic children, etc. But no, we're not supposed to say that because that's supposedly transphobic, homophobic, or any other phobia they want to attach to it. Meanwhile, what did this trans person do? Well, they raped a baby. And they pled guilty to it. And we're not talking about a child, not even a toddler, a baby in diapers, wah, having a soother in its mouth and getting raped by a tranny that we gave the job to because we're supposed to feel sorry for transgender people. And guess what the punishment for this transgender person was? Not even going to jail. So in Canada, You can go to jail if you didn't want to wear a mask. But if you rape babies and you identify as a female, you're going to get off scot-free. I don't know about you, but that's not the Canada I grew up in, and that's not the Canada I want to live in. Now let's move, and it gets even worse, because now if you don't go along with this, not only do they try to shame you, we're seeing incidences of people getting fired from their jobs or people even getting arrested because they won't address a 45-year-old male as a 6-year-old female. We allow a 50-year-old male to go in a change room in a pool with 13-year-old girls because he identifies as a 13-year-old girl. Canada is literally the world's shithole. Every bad thing that the world is being tested with is in Canada and flourishing. The climate change agenda is here. We're about to get another giant carbon tax raise. Well, they lie to us and say inflation is at 2%, which is the biggest lie I've ever heard in my life. Go buy anything and tell me it's only gone up 2%. Now they're going to raise the carbon tax after raising the property taxes. And we're talking double digits. We're not talking small. So we have the climate change agenda in Canada. They just talked about Edmonton going ahead with the 15-minute city. And while everybody's talking about this, it's a conspiracy theory. They don't want to take your car. What did they just advertise in the United States of America? The first carless city, everybody. We should be so excited. No more cars. Everybody walking. Everybody stuck in the 5-mile radius of the 15-minute city. And you know what the best part is, everybody? It's all rentals, because you will own nothing and be happy. But don't worry, guys. Even though it's actually being built in front of your face as we speak, it's still just a conspiracy theory, and they're not really coming for your car, and they don't really want you not to be able to own a house. That's why if you talk to any 18 to 21-year-old in Canada or the United States today, they can't even get a driver's license because they know they won't even be able to afford a car, let alone buy a house. The idea of buying a house to them is a sick joke. This is the Canada. This is the so-called land of opportunity. This is what your children have to look forward to. And if they're white, now they're not even going to be able to find a job. Oh, you want to work at this place? Oh, I'm sorry, you're a straight white male. You're not hired. And if you think it's a joke, even the companies that don't put it in writing and don't automatically tell you before you apply, by the way, don't bother applying if you're a straight white male. Well, all the other companies are still doing it. They're just not telling you. I had a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, do an experiment, and he applied for 10 jobs as a straight white male. He didn't even get a call back from all 10 jobs. He used the exact same resume, the exact same 10 places. The only difference was he identified as LGBT. Everything else was identical. And he got calls back from 8 out of 10 of the places. And he could have got jobs at all the places. So he took it another way. He tried another experiment. He made a YouTube video and he posted it. Got like 1,000 views. He posted the exact same YouTube video, but put in the caption that he's LGBT. It got 100,000 plus views simply because the algorithm favored it because it's LGBT. They are pushing this so hard because it comes straight from the same Zionist handbook of the Israelis that are committing genocide right now in Palestine. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, those wonderful Israelis that want all your money, that want you to go and fight their wars for them while they commit genocide and play the victim, are also the people that own your politicians, are also the people that are responsible for the entire LGBT agenda, are also the people that are responsible for the climate change agenda, are also the people responsible for all the new taxes and all the new things going on, because they are designing to destroy any society that has a semblance of freedom, any society that has an idea where you can actually make something of yourself. And that's Western society. And it's gotten to the point now where every time I leave Canada, I don't feel like I'm going on vacation. I feel like I'm escaping. And when I come back to Canada, I don't feel like I'm coming home. I feel like I'm entering a war zone. And the average Canadian is got their head so far up their ass while they're licking Justin Trudeau's balls that it makes it almost untenable to stay here. Like, as I walk around and see the average person, and they're still making excuses, by the way. I still have the average person come and tell me, oh, I might regret the vaccine, but, I had no choice. I had to go to Cuba, or I didn't want to look for another job. They still tell themselves the same lie, which leads me to believe, and normally I speak in fact, but now I'm going to tell you that this is my opinion, so people can't shit all over me. But when people are still telling me the same lie they told me 4 years ago, even after they know they made a mistake, even after they know they screwed up, even after they know they got played for a fool, it tells me that they're going to do the exact same thing again if put in the exact same position. Only this time, they're going to just need a little bit more of a push. And you know what they're going to do? It's going to be that disease X. They're going to tell people, oh, this is deadlier than COVID. So, I know you guys don't want to wear the mask. I know you guys don't want the vaccine. I know. But this one is deadlier, scarier. So you better comply this time. And watch that little rationalization, that little justification is more than enough to get the vast majority of ballless, spineless, soulless Canadians to roll up their sleeve. Because what's one more booster? I already got 5. What's another one? And you know what? We know what those boosters are. We know now that those boosters are death shots. They just released a report today. Or was it February 19th? Is that today? I'm sorry.
Yesterday, yeah. I saw
yesterday. 99 million people studied in the largest vaccination study of all time. And guess what? This wasn't some randomized controlled study. This was all you morons that said, oh, I have no choice, that went to get your vaccine. You were the experiment, like we've been telling you all along. And you've been calling us conspiracy theorists. And what did I tell you before you went and injected yourself with poison? You're going to increase your chance of heart disease, blood disorders, brain disorders, multiply your chances of cancer, and it's going to develop way quicker. And if you're really unlucky, go get tested for HIV, and you're going to see all that rising. So now, what did this report tell us? They tell you in the headline, oh, COVID vaccination linked to mild increases in brain, heart, and blood disorders, but it's worse if you got COVID. Okay, let's unpack that for a second. So I actually read through the article. What do they consider a mild increase? For myocarditis and pericarditis, 2 separate heart conditions that leave 50% of people dead within 5 years, they saw almost a 700% increase. Now, let's put that into perspective. In a normal year, we'll see 1.8 million cases of this type of heart disease that leads to almost 1 million deaths within 5 years. Now, we're going to see 14 million cases a year so far, with 7 million of those people dying, as opposed to less than 1 million people dying within 5 years. And now amplify that by every single year. So let's look at the next 5 years. Instead of 10 million people getting myocarditis, we're going to have almost 75 to 100 million people getting myocarditis. And instead of 5 million people dying, we're going to have almost 50 million people dying. And that's just from one type of heart disease. And that's just from the first few shots. Then they looked at blood disorders like blood clots, up 300%. So that means triple the amount of people are going to die. Same thing with brain disorders. So I don't know about you, but when we're having double, triple, quadruple, 5, 6, 7 times the amount of people getting a disease and dying, I think that's pretty significant. Then they go on to say in the study, well, even though vaccination raises all these risks and we're seeing all these people dropping dead from it, well, if you got COVID, it was even worse than if you got the vaccine. That's what they try to tell you. So even though the vaccine is going to increase all your risks for all these things, including sudden death, getting COVID is going to increase them even more. So you might as well get the vaccine. That's wonderful logic, except that they leave out the fact that 99.99999% of people who got the COVID vaccine also got COVID, didn't they? How many of you people do you know got the vaccine and never caught COVID? Answer, virtually none. Virtually every single person that got the vaccine got COVID at least once. So now you got to add the risk factors together. You got to add the risk factors of the increase from the vaccine, and you got to add the risk factors of the increase from catching COVID. And then the study also showed that the more vaccines you got, the more boosters you got, the higher your increase of risk. And that study of 100 million people only went up to the third dose. We know that there's morons out there that are on shot 7 and even 8. So the numbers are far, far, far worse than they're even admitting. And they're already admitting that they've killed tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people within the next 5 to 10 years. They literally put it in writing. Let's break it down. I'm going to break down that whole study, and they put in writing, and they're admitting, hey guys, the COVID vaccines were so deadly that around 100 million of you extra are going to die over the next 5 to 10 years. And that's a conservative estimate. But don't worry, because it was still better than not taking that vaccine. Complete, utter bullshit. And anybody who takes another shot of anything, you deserve to die suddenly. And your children do not deserve to have a parent that doesn't protect them.
Exactly. Now, I want to point one thing out, Chris, that I was in court. I think you knew about this story 2 years ago, where the judge, he didn't like me. In fact, I think you and I are extremely unpopular with the vast majority of judges in the country because we tell Canadians the truth about things. Now, this judge says, Mr. Johnston, I would very much like to order you to take a vaccine. However, I need your permission to be able to give that court order. That's when I said, Your Honor, may I have some time to think about it, please? So I walked outside into the hallway. I called my lawyer saying, is this guy for real? Like they've been mandating this stuff all around the country, just like employers, random employers were mandating this. And now a judge tells me he needs my permission to write a court order for me to take a needle. And my lawyer says, that's exactly what it is. Nobody ever had to take these needles. Just go in there and tell them you don't want it. So I go in saying, Your Honor, respectfully, I decline. And eventually he says, well, you're free to go. Just get out of my courtroom. But another friend of mine was in that courtroom. He says, yeah, Kevin, well, you were outside the courtroom. They were laughing, saying they just wanted to intimidate you, that they knew that you would decline. They just wanted to scare you a bit. That's what they were talking about in the courtroom. It's weird. So imagine, Chris, a judge is asking my permission to write a court order to get me jabbed. So Canada, I told you this 2 years ago. I've been telling you this forever. Everything Chris and I have been saying here was not for our benefit. We didn't take the needles. It was for you. And yeah, calling us conspiracy theorists and shattering my windows and slashing my tires and giving me the finger and yelling at Chris. What did that get you? It got you needles. You're going to die. We're not.
And you just reminded me, Kevin, I actually made history, and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago online. But as you know, I was the first person, my wife and I were the first people to be charged under the Quarantine Act. And it was September 26th, 2020, the day I made the iconic video that went ultra viral where I predicted everything. And it was the day after we got back from Ireland. So I was in Ireland until September 20th. I spoke to around 50,000 people in Ireland. We got home, and on the 25th of September, which was a Friday, the day before a big protest at Dundas Square, the police showed up at my house and said, we know you're planning on going to the protest tomorrow. You're on quarantine. If you show up there, we're going to arrest you. And I said, please do, because I can't wait to test this in court and prove to everybody that not only is it illegal, but it won't stand up in court. So nobody needs to comply and everybody can just say no and not be afraid of you. They go, you better not do that. I go, well, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And September 26th, I showed up to the protest. They tried to grab me about a block away from Dundas so nobody could see. But I had about 20 people with me and we all started filming the police. And they said, Chris, you can't be here. You're on quarantine. I looked at them. I said, quarantine's for sick people. I'm not sick. So if you're not going to arrest me, step aside. I have a protest to attend. They got out of my way. I spoke at the protest. The police showed up later and the news came and they gave me the first quarantine violation fine ticket. And I went on stage and noticed that they had wrote the wrong first and last name to make sure I couldn't challenge it in court. So I challenged them to come up and give me a fresh ticket and sign my name properly so I could fight it in court. They declined. The very next week, when I was on day 13 of my quarantine, same quarantine, we went back to the protests. This time, I became the first person charged criminally under the Quarantine Act, my wife and I, and they wanted $750,000 fine and 1 year in jail. This was October 2020. I've been fighting that charge tooth and nail along with all the other dozens of charges for the last 4 years. It got to the point where they had 26 witnesses for the Crown and they were putting aside a 15-day trial. And the prosecutor told me to my face, and this was the exact word they used, that they were going to crucify me. I said, okay. Then I filed a motion to get it thrown out for delay because they took almost 4 years to get it to that point because I knew that they were just stalling because they knew if I got it into court that I would embarrass them and I would win. So they contacted my wife and I at the end of 2023. And they said, you know, this has been going on so long. We just want to see it go away. So plead guilty, take $1,000 fine. You'll have no criminal record and you'll be completely clear of all these charges. My wife jumped at the chance, paid her $1,000 fine and got out. I looked at them and said, you think I'm going to plead guilty after 4 years? I told my lawyer to tell them some very choice words that I cannot repeat on this show and said, you better not paraphrase. I want you to repeat what I say word for word. And he said it. And within 3 days, they called me back and they said, Chris, we're dropping all the charges against you, which brought me now over 80 charges beaten and proved without a doubt that every single person from day one literally just had to say no. And none of this could have ever happened. They couldn't take your job. They couldn't take your money. They couldn't throw you in jail. They couldn't do nothing but try to intimidate you and scare you into submission. And I put myself out there on the front lines and I was ready to take the bullets for you guys because I knew in my heart and in my soul that I was right. And I proved it. I put my life on the line for you guys. And I proved that all you have to do is grow a set of friggin' balls and stand up for yourself, your family, and your country. And all they can do is talk big, talk bad. So, ladies and gentlemen, if anybody goes along with anything in the next bull crap movement that they try to pull, you have absolutely no excuse. And I will not accept any excuse from this moment on, because I fought tooth and nail for 4 years to prove my point, and I won.
I can't believe it's already been 4 years of this shit.
Yeah.
I can't believe 4 freaking years already. Anyways, Chris,
Well,
whatever you
but
do,
Ed,
don't
hold on
go
a
to the hang on. Do not go to the art gallery in Toronto.
Huh?
Don't go to the art gallery. You're gonna be pissed off. You want to
Oh,
see
they have the anti-white display like they had in Vancouver.
No,
But
it's
they've
the
also got
pedophilia.
the pedophile display. They had this weird guy. He died of AIDS back in the early '90s, and he drew a whole bunch of kids having sex thing, and they brought kids in to see these drawings that were done in paint and crayon. It's really gross what's going on here, Chris. Chris, I'll tell you this too, is that when they get a hard on for somebody in the justice system like you, 80 charges, that's a lot. And you talked about delay. If you remember, Bonnie Crombie didn't want to run against me back in 2018. So in 2017, she had me charged with hate speech. That's still in the courts today. There's a Crown attorney there. The guy is a psychopath. He wants to see me fry in any way he possibly can. So he is not letting this thing go. 7 years for a criminal charge that was not supposed to have jail time, but somehow I've already done 6.5 weeks in prison for that charge. This country is out to lunch, everyone. And I'm down here in Costa Rica now, Chris, and I'm telling Costa Ricans what's going on in Canada about the communism, the fascism, the journalists going to jail, Canadians randomly being locked up, and they're all really they're blown away. But there's a lot of Americans here on the west coast of Costa Rica, and they're floored as well. They just don't understand anything about it. Here's some good news though for you, Chris. Your name has come up 3 times, once in Quepos and twice in Uvita. People know who you are. So what you've been doing has made an impact, brother. I love you for it. I truly do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I noticed even in Colombia, everywhere we went, even when we went to very remote areas, people were recognizing me like multiple times a day, every day, asking for pictures. I went out one night on a Saturday night to the party area that was really packed, and I got stopped. I'm not exaggerating, like every 3 to 5 minutes. It got to the point where all the local girls were like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And they actually started following me around, and 3 girls tried to mug me.
Well, Chris does have the big muscles. He looks good.
That's what they did, Kevin. They had 3 girls come up to me, and I had people coming up to me all night, so I wasn't suspicious. But then they just started groping me literally all over, sexually assaulting me, until one of them full out grabbed my crotch. And at that point I was like, "Excuse me, chill." And then they just shrugged their shoulders like, "Okay, I guess you don't want me," and started walking away. It took me about 3 seconds to realize that one of them had lifted my phone. And they saw that I noticed, and 2 of them went one way and one of them went the other way. So I chased down the 2, and I grabbed them by the scruff of the neck, and I turned them around. I said, "Excuse me, ladies, can I have my phone back?" And they tried to act like they didn't know what I was talking about and play stupid. So I robbed them instead. I took all their phones, I took their bags, I took their accessories, and I put it in my pocket and started walking away. And then magically my phone reappeared.
Incredible. Wow. That so I guess the lesson here is maybe we should have women socially distanced from you, Chris.
Exactly. I was just about to say, if I had been properly socially distancing, it couldn't have happened.
Oh man, that's crazy, brother. This can only happen to you. Well, Chris, I'll tell you, there's been a lot of people asking to see you on the show, mainly because there's been so many videos of you traveling the world and whatnot, and everyone's asking me, "How's Chris? How's he doing?" It's like, guys, I don't have a direct conduit to this guy. All right, Chris and I are not married. I don't know where Chris is. I hope he's well. So we just had to get you out here and let everyone see for themselves that you're still looking amazing. You're looking happy and healthy, and you're still fighting the fight. And that is
all day, every day. I'm about to do a show for the farmers in Germany, and everybody should be taking note about what's going on there. And we got to know that we started all that with the trucker convoy. If we never had the trucker convoy, there would have been no other protests going on like that around the world. So Canada, you can give yourself a little pat on the back for that, because it showed a little bit of balls and we showed a little bit of unity, and we got the ball rolling for the rest of the world. But now we've gotten complacent again. Yes. We've gotten back to the point of simply making excuses while Canada gets worse and worse and worse. And now it's at the point where it's not even a country I want to live in. Like, I'm making a business out of trying to get as many residencies and passports all around the world as possible, because think about it. If they're already banning white people from jobs today, straight white males, and they're already allowing pedophiles to rape babies, and they're already raising your carbon taxes to the point where you can't even pay for groceries, and groceries are so expensive it got to the point where people are making viral videos making jokes out of it. Like, what is Canada going to be like in 10 years? It is already a complete shithole compared to what it was 20 years ago. And it's accelerating in the very wrong direction. So I want everybody watching this to honestly just hear my words and think about it. Where do you believe and what do you think Canada is going to be like in 10 years for the average old stock, aka white Canadian? It's going to be the most repressive regime. It's going to be a place of absolutely no opportunity. And it's going to be a place where you literally have to walk with your head down and act like a second-class citizen who hates themselves because you're going to be afraid of getting ostracized or canceled or fired from whatever job you were even able to apply for at that point. That is the direction that Canada is heading. And that's not some dystopian conspiracy theory. That's just an expansion of the realities that are already in place.
I think a lot of people are busy prepping this year, actually, and last year. I think that's why the numbers were starting to drop off at all the protests, because people seen what were coming. They heard the message, and I think a lot more people than you know of have prepped up a lot. I think that's where a lot of people spend time and energy.
Okay, I spoke to a few of my friends who are still in Ontario. They don't want to be there. But it turns out that there are thousands upon thousands of people right now who have all passed their PAL, their PAL inspection. That's when you apply to get your gun license, and the RCMP does a check on your criminal record. And if you don't have a criminal record, you move to the next level, which is just get your license. And what they're doing now is that even the people that pass the PAL are not getting their license. They've delayed everything. The excuse is, well, we're very busy. There's been a lot of applications. They're not letting you get to that next step. So one of the things that has been going on here is that there have been a lot of people buying bullet grinders. They can make their own bullets. That means something's coming. That means everyone's preparing for what they think is coming next. And it's not going to be good. Chris, give me a second here. We just have to draw the winner in tonight's 50-50 draw. We're going to bring Adrian in right now. We got 20 tickets in there, don't we, buddy? $200 is on the table. Someone's going to get $100 out of this 200.
Yep,
there you go.
There you tickets.
Go. All right.
All right, let's shake it up.
Go ahead.
All right. I have a ticket, everybody.
All right.
Whoa, look at this. I think someone's getting another Porsche.
Not again.
Psych.
Oh, no. Hey, Susan Brandt. All right. Congratulations, Susan. You're going to get yourself $100. Susan, you did not give me your phone number. Could you please go ahead and email that to me now? And I will call you immediately after the show. Thanks for everybody for buying tickets tonight. Congratulations, Susan. That's just fantastic. Adrian, thanks for being here, brother. We love you.
You're welcome. Yep.
Quickly,
all right,
Chris.
I see that you're driving somewhere. I also saw a couple of cop cars in behind. Are they there for you?
No. I was just at the gym.
Told you he was at the gym. Chris, did you get your guns back?
No, because guess what? So once I beat all the charges and I have no criminal record whatsoever, they were supposed to have to give me all my guns back and give me my PAL. I have a restricted and non-restricted. I've been shooting since I was 3 years old. I've owned guns and been licensed for over 20 years and have zero criminal record of any kind, let alone a violent criminal record. So after I beat the charges, we said, okay, can I have my guns back now? Including the now prohibited that have to be grandfathered because I own them. And they filed a motion to try not to give me my guns back. And basically just said to a judge, we don't want to give him his guns back because we still think he's dangerous, even though he's never done anything. And he beat all the supposed charges that had anything to do with the guns in the first place. And so my lawyer filed a motion to the same judge saying, well, that's complete bullshit, and give him his damn guns back. And the judge had to side with me, but they delayed the process for like 2-3 months. And then guess what happened? We all remember when I was running for mayor in Toronto, they had me arrested for uttering death threats, which was complete bullshit. But because now that's another violent charge, they use that as an excuse to supersede the judge's court order and not give me my guns back once again. So they've been holding my guns since 2021, holding my gun license since 2021. And even after I beat all the charges, they still won't give me my gun license back. Or my driver's license, by the way. I still have no Canadian driver's license because they've been doing some really messed up shit with the computers. After I beat my charges, I was now eligible to go get my license back because part of my conditions were I was not allowed to drive. So I went to the DMV, and the DMV told me that my license wasn't suspended; it was canceled because it had been gone for so long that I needed to go to the place, do my written test, do my road test, and get a new license. So I said, "Okay, are you sure?" We even called the place after the computers told them that, and they said yes. So they booked the appointment for me while I was at the DMV to go get my testing done so I could get my license renewed. I went to the testing office a week later for my appointment. I waited 2.5 hours in the lineup. When I finally got my time, they told me, "Sorry, you can't have your appointment." I said, "Why?" They said, "Because your license isn't canceled, it's suspended." I go, "No, that's not true. I haven't had a license for multiple years, and I just came from the DMV, and they told me my license isn't suspended, it's canceled." And I even gave them a printout from the DMV that showed 3 days ago, or not even, like 5 days ago, my license was canceled, not suspended. So now they told me after going to the DMV, I couldn't reinstate my license because it wasn't suspended, it was canceled. And then after going to the drive test center, I couldn't reinstate my license because it wasn't canceled, it was suspended. So I went back to the DMV now with paperwork from the other place saying, "No, my license is actually suspended." They charged me $1,200 to unsuspend my license, which I did. They gave me a temporary license. I left. I drove for 3 days. I got pulled over by 9 cop cars while I was already pulled over downtown Toronto to go use an ATM to take out money. While I was pulled over, I got 9 separate driving offenses, including dangerous driving, because they claimed my front tire was partially parked on the curb. So that constituted dangerous driving. Then they also claimed that my license was suspended 3 days after I just paid the reinstatement fee, after they told me it had been suspended, then canceled, then suspended. And I went to the DMV twice, went to the drive test center, and paid everything, did everything I had to do, and then all of a sudden it was magically suspended again. So they're obviously playing games with my license, playing games with my gun license. They want to make my life as miserable as possible in Canada because they don't want me here. But the thing is, all the stuff they're doing to me individually isn't what's making me hate Canada. It's the stuff they're doing collectively what's making me hate Canada. So they could just leave me alone and continue on destroying the country. And if 37 million Canadians just watch and let it happen, they won't have to do anything to me. I will leave. There's no point in living in Canada anymore. From my perspective, in my personal perspective, there is no real reason for me to stay in Canada. The only reason I stayed here this long is because I felt bad for the people and I wanted to help the people. And I stayed and I helped as many people as I could. But we all know they're going to do this again. We all know they're going to do it again, and they're going to come even harder. And I already know that the vast majority of Canadians are going to roll over, go along with it, make every excuse. And if and when that happens, I promise you, Canada, I'm not going to stick around for another 4 years of this bullshit. I'll be gone. I'll be living wherever it's tenable, wherever it's nice, and I'll be enjoying life. And you're going to suffer, and you deserve to suffer because you keep listening to the government and you don't stand up for yourself.
Well, why don't we have a big party down here in Costa Rica, Chris? Let's invite Canadians down so they can see what real freedom tastes like. There is freedom here. You know,
I've been to Costa Rica many times, and I love it there. They did get a little crazy during the pandemic, but it was still way better than Canada.
well, it's beautiful now. There's a lot of people on the West Coast. They want to speak English. They actually try very hard, and I do actually trade lessons with some of the folks here. So they're trying to get me to speak Spanish, and I'm showing them English. The people here are fantastic on the West Coast. Now the East Coast, not so much, but also the big city of San Jose, we could probably fill a hotel. And just inviting people down here to hear what you've got to say, and maybe get if we can get Pat King down here and a few of the others. We really got to tell people what's going on in the international scale.
I was planning on coming down there because just outside of San Jose, there's a dog shelter that I sponsor, and I go and visit once in a while. It's called Land of the Strays. They have about 100 acres, and they have over 1,500 dogs, and they all run around free. So you can go there and visit literal packs of hundreds and hundreds of dogs just running around in the open space. It's like nothing anyone's ever seen. And I try to visit them at least once a year. So I'm planning on coming back to Costa Rica soon in the next few months. So if we can arrange it, I'll be there. And I come to, I fly into San Jose. I stay in Herradura, Jaco, that area. It's all within driving distance.
I'll make sure I meet you at the airport. I'm all over that, brother.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I'll be there. There we go. Talking about dogs, this one here has become my new buddy. There you go.
So cute.
This creature here follows me everywhere. I take this dog with me everywhere I go. Not even my dog.
I wish I could take all my dogs everywhere I go.
Damn right. Well, Chris, are there any concluding statements you've got to make here? I think one thing before you do, I just want to let you know that I announced that I was going to run for mayor of Mississauga, my hometown. Again, there's a by-election right now, but I've got to do it from here in Costa Rica, because you know what's going to happen. They'll pull me over, they'll steal my car, they'll arrest me, they'll point guns at me, and Antifa will come out, Black Lives Matter will come out. I'll probably get stabbed to death this particular time. So I'm going to run an entire campaign from Costa Rica, just because it's the only way to do it safely.
Well, you'll definitely be safer that way, but it'll also be easier for them to cheat you and ostracize you.
Of course. Absolutely it will. But, you know, the ostracizations, it's coming from left-wing nut jobs who will never achieve anything in life anyway. And that's the thing here is, why do people, Chris, do you think, why are they so eager to allow these left-wing losers who don't work, live with their parents, will never have wives or husbands or anything else? Why do we care what they think? Why is it that so many of you get called names by these losers and you actually care? You let it affect you. Chris, I got to hear about
the number one predictor for people who believe in wokeism and left-wing ideology is low IQ. And the average person in Canada has an IQ in the triple digits, but that's less than half the country. So when you understand that half the country has a double-digit IQ, and when you start getting into the 80s, you're into mentally challenged territory, it makes perfect sense why those same people buy into the woke ideology, have purple hair, believe they can change their gender, and buy into the idea that white people are evil and how they should hate themselves. If you're stupid, it's very easy for people to manipulate you. It's that simple. And the unfortunate reality is half the population are complete, absolute morons. And then the other half are kind of smart, but they're still pussies. So when you put it all together, you end up with a situation where 90% of people wear a mask and take jabs, because a lot of them are stupid and the rest of them are pussies. And that's Canada in a nutshell. A combination of a lot of stupid people with a bunch of pussies sprinkled on top, and especially our men. I've been talking to so many Canadian men, and not only have I heard nothing but excuses, I've heard justifications for even more government intervention in their lives, because, you know, freedom is so scary for a man these days that the government should be making all their decisions for them. And I'm sorry, I just don't want to live around men like that, because those aren't even men. Those aren't males, not men. And I like to live amongst men because I actually have something in common with them. And Canada is no longer a nation of men. It's now a nation of pussies, unfortunately.
Well, I agree with that statement fully. Look, even the cops that arrested me, Chris, They all had poofy, faggy hairdos and these hipster beards that were pulled into ponytails. And I'm telling you, one of them, he had the poofy man bun, and he had the tight skinny jeans, and he had tattooed lipstick. Right? I'm thinking this guy is arresting me. $50 says he's either going to ask me to blow him, he's going to ask to blow me, or he's blowing somebody in the bathroom while I'm being processed. It's just, these guys are pathetic. They've got the weakest of the weak now, but they have the stupidest of the stupid in positions of being police officers. These left-wing nuts, they've been given guns and body armor and told they have authority, and then told to go out and harass you and me and Pat King and Pastor Art and so on. Now, one step further here, Chris, I'm not sure if you knew about this, but the Royal Canadian Mounted Police are now going to pay for sex changes for their trans officers.
In other words, we're paying for their sex changes because they get paid with our tax dollars.
But that means the RCMP are hiring mentally ill maniacs and giving them guns.
That's just that. Oh, as soon as you said that, an RCMP officer just drove right beside me. What a coincidence! But yeah, of course they're doing that because they have to play the role. This is all coming from top down. Just like the anti-white agenda is coming from top down, the LGBT agenda is coming from top down. And if people think this idea of anti-white is an isolated incident, I'm going to leave you guys with this. Did everybody know what the S&P 100 is? For those of you that don't know, the S&P 100 are the top 100 companies by volume of revenue in the United States of America. So we're or in North America. So we're talking about Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Meta, etc. All those massive companies. Well, in the last 4 years since the pandemic, those companies have collectively hired over 350,000 people. Guess what percentage of those people were non-white?
90?
96% of the 350,000 new hires in the top 100 companies of the United States of America, where 70% of the population is white, only 4% of the positions went to white people. 96% of positions intentionally went to non-white people. And that means the majority of those positions going to people that were probably not as qualified, not as experienced, because they passed over people just because they were white or just because they were male, and favored people just because they were trans or just because they were black or just because they were a woman. And when you do shit like that, it's intentionally to hurt a certain group. And it's so funny because you couldn't do it to any group. You couldn't say I'm not hiring women. You couldn't say I'm not hiring blacks. And you definitely couldn't say I'm not hiring LGBT. But as soon as you say you're not hiring whites, not only is it okay, but it's literally institutionalized policy from the largest, wealthiest, most powerful entities in the nation. And you're trying to tell me that this isn't a giant coordinated effort to destroy your country, destroy your way of life, and steal your future? Well, if you're still of that mindset, you're a complete effing moron and a complete loser. And that is why I cannot stick around in Canada. Because until I see people thinking, speaking, and acting like me, I simply don't fit in here anymore.
Well, Chris, you know what? There's a lot of beta cucks out there. Whenever you Google Chris Sky's name, you'll see there's a lot of beta cucks that are very, very critical of you. They don't like the fact that chicks like to hang around you. Chris Sky is a masculine man. Chris Sky is a very strong man. Chris Sky works out. Chris Sky looks good in a suit and a tank top, and Chris Sky has good-looking women that hang around him. These beta cucks hate you because you are everything that they only wish they could be, but will never even try to be. So you guys like you and me, I've got a big mouth, obviously, so I get shit on because I speak way too much according to the losers out there, and you're too good looking according to the losers out there. So that's the problem, Chris, is that
you forgot the newest thing about me. You didn't see the latest.
No.
I'm secretly what do they call me? An elite gender invert. So I'm secretly a woman. without a penis, and I'm pretending to be a man, and I'm on hormone puberty blockers and testosterone to try to make myself more masculine. But I'm not really a man. I'm secretly a woman with no penis.
Okay, I'm going to just clear that one up if you don't mind. Chris and I worked out together once in Calgary. All right, on the east side in the Forest Lawn area. Chris was in a tank top and shorts that were very tight, and Chris has a very prominent bulge, which indicates clearly he has a natural set of testicles and a penis in that area. Now,
Wait,
Chris, the only
wait,
reason I
wait,
thought
wait. They acknowledge that I have a larger than average member, but according to them, it is a fake prosthetic implant that I use to give the appearance of my uber masculinity.
Well, I
So,
didn't ask to see
I'm
it,
secretly
so I
a woman
thought-
without a penis, but I have a penis, but it's a fake penis, and that's why it's so nice.
Okay.
Do you think King Nico, who's pushing all this shit, is on the government take? You think someone's
Yes,
paying him?
and that's the other thing. The guy who's making most of this up is a guy by the name of King Nico. Besides the fact he's known me since I was 16 years old, and he's seen me with more chicks that he wishes he could be with for the last literally 20 years than I can even count. No, he knows that I'm actually a man. The real reason is he's a jealous loser that's been trying to get clout, but he was preaching about flat earth for the last 2 years and nobody really cared. And then he started talking about trannies, which people care about, but he's talking about it from a crazy Bible perspective, which basically turns people off. Then he made some very bad choices that cost him his house, had a girl he was trying to impress crash his car, which he lied about and pretended Mercedes crashed it. And it was a 20-year-old Mercedes that he tried to pass off as a new car, by the way. So now, because he has no money, no house, no car, and he's paying rent in a shitty apartment, he's trying to do anything he can to gain clout. He also, by the way, while telling everybody that I'm secretly a Freemason, secretly a tranny, secretly a woman, secretly working for the government, he actually collects money every week from the government on disability because he claims to have a personality disorder and claims that he needs medication for that personality disorder. So he's literally mentally ill, on medication, has a nasty cocaine habit, which turns him really weird when he does it. And he's telling everybody that I'm secretly a woman. In reality, he's just really broke, really high on drugs. And I exposed recently what I thought, why I thought he was very obsessed with homosexuals, trannies, and all the rest of it. I believe that he was molested by his family as he was growing up, and that's why he grew up like this. And when I called him out on it, because I'm pretty good with psychology and I can tell when people are projecting, he didn't even deny the allegations. He couldn't even deny it. In fact, I challenged him to put me on a lie detector because he's all about clout and he's all about followers. But I said, since you want clout and followers so much, let's write a contract. You can put me on a lie detector test and you can ask me if I'm secretly a woman, if I'm secretly a Freemason, if I secretly work for the government, and you can either take 2 things or 3 things from this. I go, you can sign a contract that states that if I pass, you have to legally agree to a fist fight, because that's legal in Canada, and I'm going to beat the living shit out of you for talking all this crap, and you're not going to be able to friggin' sue me or charge me. Or you can sign a contract that states you're going to take a bitch slap, and you can sit in that chair on video after I pass a lie detector and let me slap you 1 time in the face, and we'll call it even. Or I gave him a third option. You can allow me to put you back on the lie detector and ask you 2 questions. Were you ever sexually abused as a child? And second question, do you still suck to this day? And guess what? He declined all 3 offers. He didn't want to put me on the lie detector test because he knew he'd either have to fight me, take a bitch slap, or admit that he was sexually molested and still plays with men to this day.
Right.
So,
okay, so I just got to clear one thing up as well, everybody, because someone asked me in my email box here, why was I looking at your bulge in the gym? If Chris, you remember, there were 4 women with us. One was a married gal, and there was 3 single gals that came with us because they wanted your autograph and whatnot. And the one points to me and says, I had no idea Chris's schlong was so big. And that was the married gal that was with us. And I looked, I went, I looked. You made me look. Nah. Yeah. So it was pointed out to me by a heterosexual woman, 47 years of age, who thought you were hot. There we go. Done. That's why I saw the bulge. Chris is not a woman.
No comment on that, but yes, apparently it's fake. It's too good to be true. It's too good to be true, Kevin.
I've also been to Chris's house, everyone. There's no spy gear there. There's nothing there. You know what Chris had when I was there? A Christmas tree and 7 dogs? And that was
8 dogs.
8 dogs. That's all I saw. You had a couch, a TV, a Christmas tree, a fireplace, and some dogs. That's it. There's nothing in there that would indicate that you are being seeded or bribed by any government agency at all.
No, but after getting all the death threats and people sending me pictures of my house and telling me they're going to burn it and blow it up and kill my dogs and rape me and my wife. Yeah, they actually told me they're going to rape me. I was like, oh, that's a first. I've been threatened. I've been for all time. I've never had somebody tell me they're going to rape me. So we actually do have security cameras now, so everybody knows. But they only film outside the house. So if you're inside my house, you're not going to be on camera.
And Chris, it's stupid that they show you your house because it's not like you made a secret of where it is. You've invited people over there for multiple parties, so hundreds of people knew where you were anyway. It's not like they were sleuths that found you. You told people where you are. What about
because I'm not afraid, and I don't have to hide from anybody. And if anybody ever showed up to my house to cause me harm, it would be the biggest mistake of their lives.
People are unreal, man. Absolutely unreal. All right, Chris, so you've got it. What's your final statement there before we shut it down for the night?
Guys, I've been going all around the world, and I can tell you, they are not done with us. They're coming back, and they're planning what they're going to call a perfect storm. Financial crisis, financial pressure, combined with the climate change agenda accelerating like you cannot even imagine. They're going to come with the carbon tax. They're going to come with the so-called carbon allowance. They're going to try to stop you from eating meat. They're going to try to stop you from traveling. They're going to come for your car. And while they're doing all this, they're going to plan the next pandemic with so-called disease X, where they're going to tell you it's 10 times deadlier than COVID, so you better take it 10 times more serious. Because they know the only way they're going to scare you back into compliance is if they try to convince you that we're going through something similar, yet a whole lot worse. And they got to break you down financially, physically, spiritually, psychologically. And that's what they're going to do. So prepare for pain and suffering. It's coming. And you can either get through it and come out stronger, or you can allow it to consume you, manipulate you, and control you like you all did the last time. And if you all do that again, it's going to be worse than the last time, because they're going to come a lot harder. They're going to come with more censorship, more laws, more draconian BS that's illegal. They're going to try to intimidate you. They're going to come after people like me. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's not over. It is just starting. If you haven't noticed, they're transforming your entire country and way of life. COVID, climate change, and the financial BS are simply the tools they are using to make it happen and make you feel like there's nothing you can do about it. But there is, by simply not embracing it, not endorsing it, not enabling it. And you have been. So stop it. It's that simple.
Done. And that's your website address, joinchrisnow.com. Is that correct?
Yes, that's for the anti-trafficking website, because we are still hosting all kinds of events and raising money and propping up different organizations that are fighting trafficking. Child trafficking is the largest black market business in the entire world. I just released a report the other day that showed 50,000 children a year in Canada go missing. That is more than Mexico and Brazil. Mexico's got 140 million people and supposedly is a third world country, yet more children go missing in child-friendly, wonderful, woke, inclusive Canada. If that doesn't show you that our country is secretly run by child grooming pedophiles who protect and enable child sex trafficking, I don't know what does. We are supposed to be the most inclusive, developed, child-friendly nation, and we got more children going missing to the child trafficking industry than countries like Mexico and Brazil. Absolutely disgusting.
And the average Canadian won't believe it and won't do anything about it. That's the sad
Nope.
part.
They'll just make excuses and pretend like it's not true.
Chris, it's always a pleasure to have you, brother. Don't be a stranger, man.
Love you guys.
Great
And I'll
to
come
see
to
you.
Costa Rica soon.
You make sure that I know when you're there, because I will be there at the airport.
I'm telling you, we're gonna plan it. I'll talk to you after we're done the show. I'm gonna see on my schedule, and I'm gonna plan coming there because I've been wanting to come there for a while.
Sold, brother. Sold. Thanks for being here, pal.
Cheers.
The astounding Chris Sky, everybody. Wow. It's so good to see him again. It really, really is. And don't forget, because of how crazy the government is, because I have now run for public office 3 separate times, I can tell you that each and every time they've destroyed my personal property, locked me up, assaulted me, stabbed me, knocked me off of a ladder, destroyed my ACL and my knee. They have come at me with everything that I've got as well. So I'm going to fight against this criminal, Bonnie Crombie, and hopefully we can win it, but I'm going to do it from Costa Rica, which is the first time ever in Canadian history that someone running for public office has to do it from a developing nation, specifically to not die during the campaign. How ridiculous has our country become? I'm going to need volunteers to go out and get signatures. Anybody who wants to volunteer their time, right here, my personal website right here, kevinjjohnston.me. Just hit the contact button and let me know that you want to help get signatures for me. Let's get my name on that ballot and let's make sure that I win. That's the only thing that's going to get me back to Canada now, everybody, is being the mayor of my hometown, where I can start locking people like this one up for murder, for fraud, and for everything else that they have done to we, the people. And Disease X, that's a good question there. You can expect them to start doing it in March because there are countries out there that will not cooperate. Ed, you've got 10 seconds to say your final piece. Go ahead.
Thanks for having me on, and I'll see everybody tomorrow night. Real estate, Thursday night. Another great political show coming on.
That is absolutely correct, everybody. Tomorrow night is the real estate show at 9 p.m. Eastern time, right here on freedomreport.ca. And we have a special guest that you've all been bugging me about. You've all asked me to bring this special guest on the show. He will be here on Thursday night. That's it for now, everybody. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. This is the Kevin J. Johnston Show that runs every single Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern time, right here on freedomreport.ca. We give away cash every Tuesday and every Thursday. Susan won $100 tonight. Let's see if you guys can win a couple $100 more on Thursday night. That is it for now. I love you all and good night.